Hey, and welcome to the Title Town podcast. This is episode 4, I believe, and the Packers just played and they won, as we all thought.
Yep.
And yeah, so what do you want to talk about?
Well, thanks for joining us, guys. We were gonna talk about the NFL playoffs today. We have a team in the conference championship now, and still 3 games to go. And there was that James Harden trade, which was obviously a big trade. So I think that's what we were gonna be focusing in on today.
Yeah. Okay, so what are your thoughts on the trade? Actually, I'll ask you first.
Well, obviously, it was a huge trade that's obviously really going to change the way that the NBA is. I think that this Nets trio, I'm really interested to see how it all plays out. I mean, in terms of talent, it could be the most talented trio in NBA history. I mean, to have 3 players that good, but the thing that concerns me, though, there's never been a team that's had 3 players that are that ball dominant before. Like with the Warriors, Klay Thompson's not really a ball dominant player. So I just don't know if it can work out. I mean, I think what the Nets are going to have to do, Kyrie Irving is probably going to have to start passing the ball a lot more and not take as many shots because he is a good playmaker and he's just going to have to not shoot as much because that's what's going to be what helps his team. But I honestly don't know if it's going to end up working out. I mean, Kyrie Irving has missed a lot of games. We don't know what's going to happen with him. And their bench isn't very good right now. They had to give up a lot of their bench players in the trade. So even though they have a really talented big 3 and arguably the most talented roster in the NBA, I just don't know if it can work. Maybe they can still make it to the finals, but I don't know if the chemistry is going to work, and I don't know if having 3 players that ball dominant is going to work. So the Lakers, I think, would still be my championship pick. And to be honest with you, I'm not like that convinced on it. So if I saw like 5 good games from the Nets with all 3 of those players playing well together, then that might be enough to change my mind and say, okay, maybe the Nets can win the championship. But that's what my opinion on it right now would be.
I think people, you included, are crazy. I think it shouldn't matter how ball dominant the players are. James Harden hasn't won. He hasn't won anything. To be quite honest with you, he's not won anything.
Mm-hmm.
And Kyrie's won a championship. KD's won a championship. Like clearly, James Harden's going to do what he can to win. James Harden wants to win. That's why he came to the Nets. That's why he was requesting to go to the Nets, because he wants to win. He doesn't want to drop 50 and win MVP again. He's already done that.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to. He wants to be in the Hall of Fame. He wants to solidify himself as one of the greatest players to ever play the game, and he wants to win to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you that he wants to win, but I think that scoring is what he's best at, and that what's best for his team is for him to score. So
sorry, but I agree. I think it's going to work out completely well. I think they're going to share the ball with each other because great players know how to do that.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that, like, you're probably going to win this argument because I'm not, like, too convinced myself with, like, what I'm saying. Like, that's my opinion right now. I just feel like something's going to go wrong. And the thing is, all 3 of those players, they are all good playmakers, but they also do take a lot of their own shots. So, I don't know. Maybe it could work out. But the only problem that I see, though, is even if they're able to share the ball with each other, then at least other players won't be involved that much, and they're all getting like less of a role. And in my opinion, what's best for an NBA team is if everyone can play to their fullest, and I think that's going to be hard for the Nets to be able to do, to have everyone play their fullest.
Is your phone? I just want to make sure. Is your phone close to me? Because last time it wasn't, and you couldn't really hear me.
Yeah, it's yeah.
Okay.
So
okay. Do you want to talk about the other parts of that trade, or?
Yeah, so it wasn't just about James Harden. I mean, the Rockets, they're the ones who decided to move on from him. I mean, he did want to go, but they sent him to Brooklyn, and they got a lot of picks for it. They got Victor Oladipo, so they're in a completely different direction now. They're a completely different team now. I mean, they got a bunch of picks, and I think they needed to do it. They weren't gonna win a championship this year or in the future unless they added like something else. So I think that it was the right move for them to trade Harden. I question trading Oladipo for Levert though, because at this point, with them getting all these picks, I think that they should be focusing on rebuilding. I mean, I don't think they can make it to the playoffs this year because there's 9 teams in the West who were all good and not and like should have made it to the playoffs. And now that the Rockets traded Harden, I think they're probably the worst out of all those teams. So I think they should just be like Levert is a young player with a lot of potential. So I think it would be better for them to have him than Oladipo.
The Rockets are the worst out of what teams?
In the West, so I think the 8 teams that are better than them, or there's at least 8 teams, but the 8 teams that I think are better than them would be the Lakers, Clippers, Nuggets, Warriors, Suns, Jazz, Trailblazers, and Mavericks.
Do you think the Warriors and the Jazz are better than the Rockets?
You think that the Rockets are better than them right now after trading Harden? Okay, well, the Rockets starting 5, it's going to be John Wall, Victor Oladipo, Daniel House, PJ Tucker, and Christian Wood.
What about DeMarcus Cousins?
Yeah, and DeMarcus Cousins coming off the bench.
Yeah.
So you think that team is better than Steph Curry, Andrew Wiggins, Kelly Oubre, Draymond Green, and James Wiseman?
I'm sorry, but James Wiseman is just not amazing. He's good, but he's not amazing.
There's still... So you think... Yeah, I mean, he hasn't been, like, amazing so far, but he's been playing decent. I think he'll improve, and even if he doesn't, I still think that that's a better team than the Rockets.
Which team did you say was better?
The Warriors.
What was the other team I questioned? The Jazz. Donovan Mitchell he's not doing outstanding this year.
I mean, it's early in the season, and I feel like this happens every year where, like, towards the beginning of the year, there are some weird stuff that happen. Like, the Magic were doing really well. The Knicks were doing really well, and I'd say probably close to 20 games in the season, it's all going to start going the way that it's supposed to. And Mitchell hasn't had his best season so far, but I think that will turn around. He's a really good player. They also have Rudy Gobert and plenty of good role players. And the Rockets, their best player right now, who do you think it is? I mean...
The best player?
Yeah.
John Wall.
I like John Wall, and he's had a pretty good bounce-back season, but I just don't see how you can say that team is better than the Jazz. I mean, the Jazz have Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. And
Mitchell and Jamal Murray went off in the playoffs last year, right?
Yeah.
And what are they doing this year?
They're
absolutely pooping themselves. They are not good here. Everyone expected going into the year. They say this every season. They say, "Oh, they're so underrated. Like, oh my God, like they're gonna have the best season of their career." Guess what? They're not. They're not as good as people think they are, and it baffles me why people are still putting the Jazz in the conversation if Donovan Mitchell isn't playing well. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me.
I don't really put Donovan Mitchell and Jamal Murray in the same categories. I mean, Murray did really well in the playoffs, and before then, before the playoffs, Mitchell was already a really good player. Like, the playoffs, to me, didn't make much of a difference in terms of, how good I thought he was. Like, I thought he was really good before the playoffs, too. So, I mean, the Rockets, they're not a horrible team, but they're rebuilding, and if you're going to say that John Wall's your best player, are you saying that you think he's better than Donovan Mitchell right now?
Do I think he's better than Donovan Mitchell? Who?
John Wall.
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit early to say that. He hasn't played in that many games yet, and I think that before his injury, he was better than him. And I really like John Wall, but I don't know. I think that it's. I don't really think that you can say that John Wall is better than him right now. Donovan Mitchell has been.
I don't know. I just think that the Rockets as a whole are a better team than the Jazz. Every time the Jazz have made the playoffs, they haven't even won a single game, really. They have. I'm saying they haven't. Did they win they won a series last year, right?
No, I think they lost against the Nuggets in the first round. That was the first round, I think.
Okay, and when's the last time they have won?
Well, I'm not saying that they're gonna win a series in the playoffs. I'm just saying that I think they'll make it over the Rockets. They'll probably end up being like the 7 or 8 seed or 6 at best. But
who's on the Jazz bench?
Whose bench?
Who's on the Jazz's bench?
Joe Ingles, Jordan Clarkson, Georges Niang, Derek Favors. They have a solid bench. I mean,
Jordan Clarkson out of those is a good bench player, and Joe Ingles too.
Derek Favors I think he's also a good bench player.
Derek Favors is old. He's not as good anymore as he used to be.
I know, but
he's old.
He's an above average bench player though. Like for a bench player.
I guess.
I mean, we'll see what happens, but I just think that in the end, the Jazz are going to end up being better than the Rockets this year. And what about the Warriors, though? You still think that... Are you still sticking with that the Rockets will be better than them?
Yeah, I agree with that.
I don't understand how you can say that. I mean, the Jazz, I kind of get that, but the Warriors, they're like... Steph Curry's so much better than anyone on that team, and it's not even just him. Like, they have...
Okay, but can Curry carry his team to the playoffs? No.
It's not just him.
No. It is. It really is. You're gonna tell me that James Wiseman is gonna be the starting center for a playoff team?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right now, James Wiseman is, I'd say, maybe a slightly below average starting center. And I think you muted yourself.
Yeah, I did. I wasn't talking.
By the end of the season, I think he'll be an above average starting center. I mean, he hasn't quite lived up to like my expectations for him, but it's still early in the season, and like I don't think there's any rookies right now that are averaging like 15 points per game, and that's probably gonna change. So I'd be shocked if the Rockets made it to the playoffs over the Warriors. I'll just say that.
Okay. I guess you're going to be shocked then. I don't know what to tell you.
What about the Pacers? They basically just traded Oladipo for LeVert. I think that was a great trade by the Pacers. I mean, they're a solid team right now, but they're definitely not a contender. So I think that it makes sense for them to go after the player who maybe isn't as good as Oladipo right now, but he's younger and has more potential. So I think the only teams that should want Oladipo over LeVert are teams that are trying to win a championship right now. What's your opinion on the trade for the Pacers?
I think the Rockets should have kept LeVert. I think that was a dumb move.
Yeah.
Because they would have had picks and LeVert. They would have had a great rebuild going. And really...
Picks?
They would have... Well, didn't they get picks?
Oh, I thought you said Hicks. I was like, who's Hicks? They got like 4 picks, I think.
Yeah, so they would have had an easy rebuild there. Like,
no,
I don't know how you...
I agree with you. That didn't make sense to me. LeVert is just like I honestly think that he could be like really good.
Yeah, I think LeVert can be good too.
But
when KD and Curry took off games and they weren't playing, LeVert went off. He almost beat like the Magic by himself.
Yeah, I think that that trade for the Pacers is more than just like kind of good, because like going into the season they literally had the same exact team that they had last year. So I'm like, what are they doing? Their team is kind of young, and they're just gonna be like the 7 or 8 seed this year. What are they doing? And now they're still gonna be like the 7 or 8 seed probably, but if you look at their starting lineup, it's actually really young. So I actually like the direction that they're going in now. I think their starting lineup is Brogdon, LeVert, T.J. Warren, DeMontis Sabonis, and Miles Turner. So,
okay, Warren's hurt, first of all. And
yeah.
Second of all, Brogdon is wildly overrated.
No, I mean, I don't like, yeah, I kind of agree with you about that. He's off to a good start season. He's not, he's not crazy good or anything, but he is young. And, Warren, when he comes back, will obviously...
Do you know how much Brogdon is getting paid? Way too much. I want to say he's in the top 10 paying for shooting guards. Top 5, maybe. They're overpaying him.
I mean, what would you value him as? I'd say that he's, not a top 50 player in the league. Not...
Brogdon, I would not put him top 50 either, by far.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, in my 50s or in my 40s is probably De'Aaron Fox, and I think that De'Aaron Fox is a much better player.
No, that's true, yeah. So maybe in, I don't have a list right now, but I've made lists in the past, so based on going off of those, I'd probably put him somewhere in, the 70s right now, maybe.
Yeah.
He's...
I agree.
Yeah, my point... Sorry, what?
I might even put him lower than that, but I guess I have to write him out before I judge.
Yeah, I mean, my point with the Pacers, though, whether we like Brogdon or not, he's a young player, and he's pretty good, and their oldest player in their starting lineup is T.J. Warren, and he's actually pretty young. I think he's only, 26 or 27 right now, so all that I'm saying is that I like the direction that they're going in now, just because of that one trade, basically.
Yeah.
And then the last team in that trade was the Cavs. I'm a little bit confused by them. What did they give up, though? They got Jared Allen and Taurean Prince. Did they give up, one first-round pick? Was that it? Oh, they also gave up Dante Exum, actually. But I'm guessing they probably gave up some picks.
Dante Exum has a big contract, too.
He does?
People don't pay attention. I'm pretty sure he has a big contract, too.
I'd be surprised by that.
Maybe that was no. He had a big contract a couple of years ago, but I think that's up right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing the Cavs gave up some picks, but even say it was one first round pick, I think that Jared Allen and Taurean Prince, that's not a bad deal, but just because of who they already have, it just doesn't make that much sense to me. I mean, it seems like they actually like this big lineup that they're gonna have. But if I'm the Cavs GM, I'm gonna try to trade one of their big men to try to get someone, a wing or a.
I disagree.
So what do you think they should do?
I don't think they should trade. If they do trade one of their centers, it should be purely for picks, for first round picks. For Drummond, they could get a lot. For Jared Allen, they could get a lot. For Kevin Love, barely anything. And who is the other center? JaVale? Probably nothing.
And they also have Larry Nance, who's a power forward.
Yeah. He's Larry Nance is one of the most underrated players in the league, in my opinion. But Jared Allen is very good. I like him. I don't think they should trade any of their centers. And the reason I say that is because, and this is gonna sound stupid, but I watched the Packers game today, right?
Yeah.
The running backs do they have?
What?
The Packers have Aaron Jones, they have Jamal Williams, and they have A.J. Dillon.
Yeah.
And guess what? It works. They make it work. I think that's what the Cavs should do, and I think they should keep 3 centers and just have them rotate.
I don't know. Really, I think pretty different.
I think you can move JaVale, or actually not JaVale. You can move Jared Allen to power forward as far like.
Yeah,
Jared Allen to power forward.
Well, I don't really like that comparison. I mean, it's a completely different sport and it's a completely different position, but.
Yeah, but it's the dynamic. It's not about exact. It's not about exact.
Yeah, I mean they can move the positions around. I agree with you about that, but I still just think that it would be better to trade one of them for a pick. Would probably be what's best. I mean, they have a young team and they do have some young players that are pretty good. But
Sexton and Garland are amazing. I love them.
I'm not completely sold on Garland yet. I love Sexton though. I really like Sexton. Yeah. Garland's off to a good start. Well, I don't know. I mean, he's decent right now. He could be pretty good, but I don't see him being an all-star. I'll say that, I guess.
Yeah. Well, Sexton might be an all-star, actually.
Yeah, but I don't even mean like this year, though. Like, I don't ever see Garland being an all-star.
Yeah.
But with the Cavs, though, I mean, yeah, you're right. They can move positions around, but I just think that it would make more sense for them to trade one of them and get a pick, especially with the way that the NBA is going. Where I don't know why I said NBA like that, but the way that the NBA is going.
I want to say one last thing before we switch to the NFL. When I say switch positions, I don't mean they should solidify Jared Allen as a power forward. I'm saying that when they need a guy to play a different position, they should consider moving Jared Allen. I'm not saying that Jared Allen's a power forward. Like, you have to put him at power.
No, I know what you mean. I just think that the NBA is getting smaller, so it would be kind of hard for the Cavs to play a bigger lineup like that. But
I think it's cool. I think it would work. Honestly,
I mean, it's what I was just gonna say that it's what they'll do if they keep who they have, but I just think it would make more sense to trade one of their centers for a pick.
Plus, this is also another odd thing to keep in mind, but JaVale McGee has asthma. So if you have three centers, that really helps JaVale's productivity when he's in.
I don't know. I mean, he didn't play that much anyways before Jared Allen was there, and it worked fine.
But they're paying JaVale a little bit, so if they want him to play the best, they got to keep him in for a small amount of time.
All right, well, yeah. Let's move on to the playoffs now for football.
Okay.
So the Packers just beat the Rams. They played a good game, and they'll be playing the winner of the Saints-Bucks game, which is tomorrow, and I'm really excited for that game. I mean, you're probably gonna get mad at this and disagree with this, but in my opinion, those are the two best teams in the NFC, and whoever wins that game is gonna beat the Packers.
Hi. No, you're crazy. You're crazy. Really? Really?
Yep.
You think that the are better than the Packers?
Yes.
There's something wrong with you. Did you not watch the Packers yet?
I saw the end of it.
Did you not watch
I've seen what the Packers have been doing this year, but the Bucks and Saints, I think they both have a better offense and defense than the Packers.
At this point, I'm considering the Packers might even beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
There's a lot of people saying that, and it just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, especially with the Bucks. The Bucks have, in my opinion, they definitely have a better offense and defense than the Packers, and they're just a better team. They've had their struggles this year, and
you think that